Today, we'll be discussing asynchronous JavaScript. I'll explain you what callbacks are and how to use them. Now, asynchronous programming is an important concept, as it allows you to perform tasks without blocking the rest of your code. First, let's understand the difference between synchronous and asynchronous programming. In synchronous programming, each task is executed one after the other, waiting for the previous task to complete before moving on to the next. So in this example, task 1 is executed, then task 2 is executed, and so on. You can consider a task to being a function. So function 1 is executed, then function 2, and so on. But this can lead to performance issues if a task takes a long time to complete, as you will block the execution of the rest of the tasks. So if task 2 takes 1 minute, and the rest of them take a couple of seconds, you can see that task 3 has to wait until task 2 is completed, although task 3 takes 1 second. Asynchronous programming, on the other hand, allows tasks to run in the background without blocking the rest of the code. This means that multiple tasks can be running simultaneously, improving the overall performance and responsiveness of your application. In this example, task 1 is executed on the main thread, but task 2 is launched on a background thread. That means task 3 doesn't have to wait for task 2 to finish its work. It will execute right away. In this example, task 2 finishes its execution right after task 3 is completed, but before task 4 started. And then the execution continues normally. So you can see that we were able to avoid waiting for a time-consuming task by running it on a background thread. Now that you know what asynchronous programming is, what are callbacks? Callbacks are a way to handle asynchronous tasks in JavaScript. A callback is simply a function that is passed as an argument to another function, and it's executed when an asynchronous task is completed. Let's look at an example to understand how this works. Let's say that we have a function greetUser that receives a name and a callback, as I said. And inside the function, we call the setTimeout function that also receives a callback that receives a function as an argument. Function console.log hello plus name plus exclamation mark. And at the end, we call our callback. Let's pass the second argument, and I'm going to explain to you in a second what this means. Okay. And then call greetUser with John and another function, so function console.log callback. Okay, now in this example, we have two functions, greetUser and sayGoodbye. Okay, now in this example, we have three functions, greetUser, this anonymous function, and this anonymous function. The greetUser function takes two arguments, a name and a callback function. It simulates an asynchronous task by using the setTimeout function, which will wait for 3 seconds or 3000 milliseconds before executing the code inside the function. So this is what setTimeout does. It waits for 3 seconds before executing the code inside the function. When we call the greetUser function and pass in John as the name and this anonymous function as the callback function, the greetUser function will execute the setTimeout function, waiting for 3 seconds. After the 3 seconds have passed, the console log will be executed. After that, the callback will be executed. And who's the callback? Well, the callback is this function that we passed as an argument. So let's run our program. Let's do node index.js. You can see that it waited for 3 seconds, and now hello John is printed because we passed John as a parameter, and then the callback is executed and the callback prints callback.